Thanks for staying up later. It's Larry King, I can reliably say, for the last time on this show, at least with me as the host. If Greg Kinnear asks you to be on later, maybe you'll...
maybe, but I feel a sense of loyalty. I'd ask, if Greg Kinnear calls and says he wants me on later, is it going to be called Later with Greg Kinnear?
At least at the start, till they think of something better.
Okay, if he calls me, I would call you and say, is it okay, Bobby? Because I believe in loyalty.
I would sign the waiver. I'd say, go ahead, take your chances, see how you like it.
It's sad to see anything end. I hate to see things end. And you're an institution with the show. You created it. And it's sad. Aren't you sad?
Yeah, it's a little poignant. I enjoyed it very much. We had a great staff on this show. And
it expanded you.
Yeah.
It took you into areas you weren't.
I hope I got better as we went along.
Oh, you got much better and took you into areas you always wanted to do. You wanted to branch out of beyond just sports. You succeeded without giving up any of your sports image. You're going to miss it.
You were a guest the second week of the show. And here, as we come toward the last week of the program, you're among our last guests. If there was one misgiving I had about the show, and we talk about it all the time, the show, because of my sports schedule and everything else, has to be taped. And it comes into play here because we're taping it before January 20th, when President Clinton is scheduled to make an appearance on your show, marking his first year in office. So we can't talk about it. So if he resigned on the show, if he said, hey, yeah, the state troopers, all correct, they're great guys.
The best part about best part about sports is it's live. Sports hold one of its main effects. Who would watch tomorrow the tape of the Super Bowl that was... You're not going to watch it.
It's a drama without a script.
Correct.
Sports.
And you don't know who's going to win. We don't know the outcome. That's why we're fascinated. We have no idea who's going to win the hockey game tonight. None. Zero. Who's going to win? Canadians going to win? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why we love it. And when you're around it live. So most of your broadcasting career has been live.
Mm-hmm.
Before NFL games, doing baseball, doing football, on top of scenes. When you have to tape, and most of my career has been live. 99% of my career has been live. And I love live. I love it.
We have one more caller coming in from Los Angeles. Hello.
Hello. Ross?
How are you?
It's Cher. I've been trying to get you for days, and I guess this is the only way I'm going to be able to get you.
Is this Cher? Hi, Cher.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
How are you?
Good to hear your voice.
Something. I'm so passionate about what you're doing, and I feel so strong. I love my country so much. It's done so much for me. I would be willing to give up everything I'm doing and come and be one of the volunteers as long as I know that if I got into it, that you wouldn't quit.
Working in Washington, D.C., these guys are out of touch with what's really going on.
Is it hard to ask for money?
It is for me. I've been able to ask for others. It's been tough. I'm getting better at it. If you'd like to make your campaign contribution now, it's North for Senate 94. You're a Virginian.
This is I am. So you're talking to me as a voter.
That's right.
And a homeowner. This is just the place. You join the group.
Thank you.
Welcome in.
I appreciate it, Larry. Thank you.
And that's why this CNN thing has been such a blessing for me. I mean, I couldn't have written a better script for myself to have a career around that show.
And you were already, obviously, a person of great stature in broadcasting, but the last year and a half kicked it up in a way you couldn't have guessed.
I can't believe it. I can't, like we were talking the other day, what are you going to do now? What do I do now? How do I follow something like a Perot Gore or something like that, where my friend Herbie Cohen, who you know very well, suggested that I go to Bosnia and sit down with all the leaders and come up with a peace accord. And then go for the Nobel Prize. See, you're nodding like this could happen. Look at this. I'm kidding.
I was nodding off.
I'm kidding, and Costas is going, yeah, you could solve Bosnia. And then you could go there for the Bosnian Olympics.
In a sense, your show helped to make Perot as a national figure and may have undone him. The consensus is pretty clear that he went down in flames in the debate against Gore.
Well, flames is hard to say about a guy with $3 billion. You have a way of buying the fire factory. Perot, I don't think you ever go down in flames. Perot is too good at sensing public need. He told me his philosophy of life is that he sells umbrellas on rainy days. And if that's your philosophy and you think you're terrific, that may be a loss, but to Perot, it's just he didn't make a sale that day.
But
so he's going to try to come back.
He apparently didn't understand that a large part of this is about real or perceived character and personality.
Oh.
And the net from the NAFTA debate isn't about who won on policy substance. It's about Perot looking like a petty, mean-spirited, gratuitously contentious guy.
Body language, the way he turned away from the camera. But, it's interesting to look at the forecasters. Ed Rollins, of course, who's come down to Pega, said that Perot was going to wipe the floor with him. Most of the consensus was that Perot would win. Jim Carville thought it was a mistake for Clinton to approve that because Gore has this wooden image. But what we do forget is Gore's debated all his life. He's been in the Senate and the House. I bet you Ross Perot's never debated. The presidential debates aren't debates. They're Q&A. And then you go to the next person. You've got a minute now. You respond now. You've got a minute. I'll bet Ross Perot in his life has never sat next to anyone who interrupted him, who said you're wrong, who made fun of him.
Rio Grande River is the most polluted river in the Western Hemisphere.
Let him respond.
Tijuana River is the most polluted. They've had to close.
But all this is without NAFTA, right?
Yeah, let me respond to this if I could, would you?
This is after years of U.S. companies going to Mexico, living free.
But they could do that without NAFTA.
But we can stop that without NAFTA, and we can stop that with a good NAFTA.
How do you stop that without NAFTA?
Just cut that out. Pass a few simple laws on this. Just make it very, very clear.
Simple laws on Mexico?
No.
How do you stop it without NAFTA?
Give me your whole mind.
Yeah, I'm listening. I haven't heard the answer, but go ahead.
That's because you haven't quit talking.
Well, I'm listening. How do you stop it without NAFTA?
Are you going to listen? Work on it.
I don't think Ross Perot's ever seen that.
I think Perot
had it all his life.
Perot at times imagined he was being interrupted.
Yeah, he wasn't being interrupted.
He claimed to have been interrupted when anyone with a stopwatch could have seen that he had talked as much or more than Gore.
They wound up with, I think, a 1 minute difference in time at the end of the show. And I, of course, that was duck soup, as you know. If you're going to host something like that, you throw the ball up and step back and just make sure that it's even. And I had a wonderful time that night. It was great being a part of it.
You go ahead and answer.
No, you go ahead.
I'd like to answer, but you go first.
Let him go ahead. He can have it. I'm going to, as long as I get a brief follow-on.
Okay, well, I think the question was...
It'll only take a minute to kill this snake. Go ahead.
Go ahead, kill it.
You're talking about the question, not me, right?
No, this question. Absolutely. Excuse me. All right, question.
With the increased visibility of the last year, naturally comes criticism. You know what the criticism is of you. You've answered it before, but not here.
I don't understand it. I don't know what too soft means. I ask people to give me examples. I've never heard a good example. I ask the best questions I know how. I've been doing it for a long time. I love asking questions. I listen to answers. I try to follow up. I'm not there to badger, but that's not my nature to badger. I'm not a badgerer. Nor am I a reporter. I'm not a White House correspondent. I've never been a news journalist. I've never covered it. Have you ever covered a news event?
No.
Never been to a fire. Never said, ladies and gentlemen, that's a fire. So, having not had
I've covered sports events that transcended into news and became news events.
Correct. And I've made news. But I'm the style section of the paper. I'm not the front page. We make the front page, as you made the front page, often. But we're not there to make the front page. If we make it, it's by some sort of circumstance.
Is there a concern that if you're too tough, not just ask a tough question, but the guy is evasive, or he says something that seems contradictory, and you nail him on it, and you're persistent, that person, especially if they're a high-profile person, isn't as willing to come back again? You lose access.
That's possible, but I got to tell you, I've never thought that. You know, if someone's evasive, I try to stay on it. I just don't try to do it harshly. I try not to be harsh. I try to make a point. But there comes a point sometimes where all you can do is all you can do. But I'm not a calculated broadcaster. I just broadcast. I'm the same off the air as on. Which, by the way, is one of the things that's very important in all great broadcasters. Godfrey had it. You have it. The camera can go off you the same way. If you're different, you're calculated.
You used to be synonymous with radio. Now you're pretty much gone from it, right? You're going to shelve that?
Yeah, contract's up in October. I've done a lot of years, 37 years in radio. Started the first national network talk show, and now everyone has one. I ran into a guy today who didn't have one. I ran into a guy in the street.
Is that right?
He said, I don't have a talk show.
Probably in between gigs.
Call me. It's a popular medium. And it saved AM radio. So I'm very proud of what we did in radio. And I have a long-lasting love affair with it. But the CNN thing is the prime motivator in my life.
So you're gone in
October.
October.
Keep my hand in it, but yeah.
You're gone in October. Who will succeed you on Mutual Radio?
You know, I don't know. David Hartman has been doing every Friday. I have Fridays off, and David Hartman, who I think is a terrific broadcaster and who obviously likes radio and he has a great voice. I don't know if he'd want to do it on a full-time basis. I'd love to see Tom Snyder come back. I think he's a major impact player. I don't know if Tom wants to do 3 hours every day because it is a 3-hour daytime show. And it's also been very successful. It's sold out. It's, you know, the driven daytime talk does very well.
Whoever does it, it's got to be somebody who makes that their main and almost sole focus.
Yeah, I would say that to anyone. It's got to be your main niche. You've discovered this, I've discovered this. You've got to have the main niche. And the secondary niches can be out there. Like, I like going out and making speeches. That's fun. It's very rewarding. It's a kick to make people laugh. It's fun to do. But you got to have that major niche. And if you have two major niches, you're playing ball in two ballparks. You don't do justice to them. Okay. I don't think. You try, but you don't.
Radio's over for you. Let me get your comments on two giants of radio at present. Limbaugh.
Right? You know, he doesn't make me laugh. I like him as a person. I don't see the humor of kidding the downtrodden. I don't think there's humor in homelessness. I don't think there's humor in bigotry. But
so he would claim that he's not a bigot at all and not encouraging bigotry. He is saying that it's not bigotry to rip into liberal orthodoxies or into political correctness, and that some of this stuff should be mocked.
But it's the way you do it. You know, you can make fun of political correctness in certain ways, and you could do it. The way it hits me is offensive. It hits me offensively. If I were black, I'd be offended by it. If it's not bigotry, it's a kind of reverse. See, I don't believe in reverse racism. I don't believe that you can be a racist when you're the minority in the society, because racism doesn't get you anywhere. If you're a black racist, what does it mean?
It may not mean anything, but you can certainly have bigoted or prejudiced feelings.
Yeah, but I mean, but it doesn't affect the society. For example, if there's a black who's prejudiced and racist, he can't prevent whites from working. He can't prevent whites from the power structure in America. Racism produces an economic block that reduces it, and the black is a victim of racism.
What if
white is a victim of racism? How can you be a victim of racism when you're the majority?
Other than those who claim that they've perhaps been victimized by affirmative action, none.
Yeah, not victimized. I don't see how.
Or denied some opportunity. That's a claim some would make. You could make. If you want to take this argument further, you could make the claim that if a given black person with influence convinces other blacks that they are perpetually victims, this is one aspect of the argument. They're perpetually victims. He's hurt not whites. He's hurt them. Because he's hurt their attitudes. So therefore, his black racism negatively impacts his own people. You could make that argument.
You could make the argument. But I often notice that in this society, whites sit around making these arguments.
Right.
While blacks go looking for work. It's easy. Whites sit in the back of limousines discussing black problems as they drive through Harlem, not looking left or right. It offends me that I don't hear the right wing talk about racism. Why aren't they angry at it? I don't hear the right wing talk about pollution. Why aren't they angry at it? Why aren't they angry at if we did these war crimes in World War II where we polluted our own people? Why isn't the right wing mad at that? I've never understood that.
That's a question that I have put to Rush Limbaugh, Bill Buckley, and Pat Buchanan separately, which is this. Let's say that the liberal orthodoxies concerning race deserve to be questioned and criticized. Show me where, in 1955, there is conservative outrage about racism from a conservative perspective. An alternative set of remedies, an alternative perspective, but still there is outrage from a moral position with a constructive, conservative solution suggested. Show it to me.
Never seen it. And I was there, because I'm 60 years old. I remember Ronald Reagan told me the biggest mistake of his life was opposing the 1963 Civil Rights Act. I remember debates. Conservatives opposed Social Security, Medicare. They were generally opposed to Black versus Board of Education.
Brown versus Board of Education.
Brown versus. They were opposed to that decision, conservatives.
And they come around eventually.
It's a fact of life. Well, they used to say something which I never understood. They said you can't legislate morality. Of course you can. But we do it every day. Can't commit murder. Can't cheat. Can't lie on your income tax. You got to serve the black man in the restaurant. Legislate morality all the time. But back to Limbaugh's place. He's forged a place, which is wonderful. I like to see talk advance.
He's a talented guy. He's a very good broadcaster.
Helped save AM radio. We're all part of this saving. AM radio is only, the audience should understand this. It's hard to realize this. 75% of America tomorrow will turn on their radio and listen to FM only. They don't know AM. My daughter's 26 years old. She don't know what AM means. What does that mean on a band? They're all FM listeners, and they get their music from FM. So we, the Limbaughs, the Larry Kings, the rest of us who deal in talk and who deal in hopefully responsible broadcasting, we're only playing to 25% to begin with. And in that 25%, we're going to skew older. So We are preaching to the choir, and the impact, while impressive, you can make a lot of money. Radio is wonderful. The Paul Harveys, the Rush Limbaughs, the Larry Kings, it's terrific. I love it. It's one of my favorite forms of media, but it is not an impact media. Radio does not change lives. Great place to be. This is the life changer. There's no impact like television. None. What's ever in second place is a distant second.
Before a break, give me 30 seconds on Stern.
Not my taste. But I would defend his right to be on. I think these fines are insane. I think the FCC's way out of whack. But I find no taste in tastelessness. Why would you appeal to? And I'll tell you another thing. Any talent could do that, in my opinion.
Any talent?
Yeah. You and I could go do Howard Stern tomorrow morning and be just as good. I could be Howard Stern tomorrow. Come on, just tell me what I can't say and let me say it. Just tell me what I can't do and let me do it.
There's a quick wittedness.
I knew real
without
talent.
approving of the content, the sensibility, the take, the potential impact on impressionable people. Leaving all that aside, there's a quick-wittedness, a nimbleness at the microphone that Stern evidences.
Never heard it.
No?
Never heard it. And I love to laugh, man. And Lenny Bruce was a dear friend of mine. They say they're on the edge. They say they're risk takers. They're not. See, in other words, to me, Howard Stern is a calculated broadcaster. So is Rush. Very good at it, but calculated. It's not that off the cuff. First of all, Stern sits with writers, doesn't he?
I guess some of it must be scripted, sure.
Unbelievable to me. Writer? Would you use a writer?
Yeah, but we do interviews.
Yeah, but I mean, when I didn't do interviews, a writer? I need a writer to be a talent? To sit there and be an off-the-cuff talent with guys writing stuff for me? Imus is a talent.
Imus has writers.
Yeah, but he's a talent. He's also funny. He's also much smarter than Howard. I mean, Howard's a nice guy. Would you see Howard Stern interviewing Secretary of State?
I can't see a Secretary of State accepting the booking.
Let's say he accepts the booking. Would you learn anything other than, say, size of organs?
No, because the entire intent would be to create something by his lights outrageous.
Couldn't you do that?
Yeah, if I wanted to be out of the business next week or lose whatever I built up.
Not today's business. But I could do the Howard Stern. He couldn't do our show. Could Howard Stern sit here and do this? No chance. And he's never succeeded at it. And by the way, I'm talking about a guy I like. He's a good family man. He's fun to be around. But as a talent, I'm talking about talent. Talent? I love talent. I respect talent. I grew up with talent. Bob and Ray was talent. This is schlock.
Tell me the story about when you and Gleason went to see Woody Allen. Allen's stand-up bit had lines in it, but he would also tell long monologue things that had wound up on comedy records.
It was the genius of Jackie. Was that Jackie had never seen Woody. And one night he said, I'd like to see this guy Allen. This was, I guess, 65. And he'd heard a lot about, knew him as a comedy writer. That's his frame of reference about Woody Allen was comedy writer. So we go to a Diplomat Hotel, and Woody was a very nervous performer. I mean, he was a writer and actor, but he was hysterically funny, but not comfortable on a stage. And so he wore sneakers and his sweater and he did his nervous little monologue. And he knew Gleason was there. He was even more nervous. But he's telling these little Woody Allen stories, which only his mind could come up with. But Gleason, who was a genius, thinks funny. And he thinks ahead. So his mind is going like this. So I'm sitting with Gleason. Woody goes on stage and says, it's October. And I was hunting. And I shot a moose.
Famous Woody Allen bit.
I put the moose on the side of my car. I'm driving back into New York, and Gleason whispers to me, the moose is alive.
And he'd never seen the bit.
Wakes up. Now I figure out what I got to do. Gleason says to me, Halloween. And Woody says, I take the moose to a Halloween party, saying he's dressed as a moose, right? Gleason says, someone's dressed as a moose. Now, at the end of it, I said, how did you know that? He didn't know the end. He didn't know the double switch off the Jewish head.
Right.
I said, how did you know that? Well, first thing Gleason said was, why did he say it was October? October was meaningless unless it's Halloween. You're driving back with a moose. He's already told me it's October. But don't figure, the moose got to be alive. It's just got to be alive. What am I going to do with a dead moose? There's nothing funny with a dead moose. Right. It's alive. Now, it's got to be a party. It's just got to be. So I loved watching Gleason and appreciate it and still laugh.
Right.
But knew where the comic was going. And when you think about it, of course, if comedy is surprise, you're going to have this master's touch of thinking ahead with a comic on stage.
But even he couldn't figure out the ending, which was the moose mingles at the party, scores, according to Woody, right? Meets the Berkowitzes.
Sells insurance. He sells two people insurance.
Right. Meets the Berkowitzes, right?
The Berkowitz dressed as a moose.
Right, in a moose
They have a
suit.
contest. Oh, Gleason got that. They have a contest. He said the Berkowitzes win. Berkowitzes win for best costume. Moose finishes second. Moose and the Berkowitzes tangle. They lock horns. Drop down, grabs the moose, takes him back up to the country, shoots him again, comes back to the city and discovers that he shot the Berkowitzes. Okay, they took this moose's head, they put it in front of the New York Athletic Club, which is a restricted club. No Jews allowed. Little did they know. That he didn't get.
So, 6 or 7 times in this seat over the last 5.5 years. This is the last time. Thanks for all your help and encouragement, really.
You're a great broadcaster. Don't go, Bob.
You know what people don't know about you? At least not as many people realize. You're as good a guest as you're a host. And I'm not just saying that gratuitously. You're a good guest because you know what the host needs. You know what you got to deliver, right?
Bob, don't go. And remember,
I'm going.
Everything else is just talk soup. Say goodnight, Bob.
Good night.